Talktainment Radio, worldwide sound. Talktainmentradio.com. We give you a reason to come. The world's greatest radio. We give you a reason to stay. Radio, the way it should be heard. You got the power.
The views and opinions expressed are those of the host and guests and not necessarily those of TalkTainmentRadio.com, 3MR Production, its ownership, management, or staff.
We got the power, the power, the power, the power.
This is The Compensatory Concept with Mr. Neely Fuller, heard exclusively on TalkTainmentRadio.com, the world's greatest radio. Radio, the way it should be heard. And now, Mr. Neely Fuller.
If you do not understand white supremacy, which is racism, what it is and how it works, everything else that you understand will only confuse you. Only confuse you. Only confuse you.
This is The Compensatory Concept with Mr. Neely Fuller, Jr. I'm Brother Kahari. This program is heard exclusively on TalkTainmentRadio.com. Radio, the way it should be heard, the world's greatest radio. This is Talktainment Radio, and you're listening to The Compensatory Concept with Mr. Neely Fuller. Let's bring in Mr. Fuller. Mr. Fuller, how are you, sir?
I'm still learning.
All right, Mr. Fuller, this is kind of interesting day, as it always is. A lot of stuff's going on. I want to ask you about a question that we normally don't discuss. How's the weather up there?
Oh, it's sunny, but very, very cold, and there's some residue snow on the ground.
Yeah. This global warming, this concept that we've heard about, looks like it's going to take a little longer before it gets here, doesn't it?
I would think so. I don't really understand what they mean by the global warming, except that it affects the weather and shifts the whole weather pattern worldwide in a way that's not traditional.
Yeah.
And that places that have traditionally been real cold all the time become warm, exceedingly warm, and in places where they have never had cold weather substantially, they'll be having it now. And so what it means to me is that apparently the whole weather pattern is shifting, and they say it's being caused by things that people are doing. That could be. I don't know for sure. It's argumentative right now.
Yeah, it goes both ways.
Right.
Mr. Fuller, tell us about your works and how to get them.
You can get the basic textbook, which is the textbook for victims, for thought, speech, and action for victims of racism, directed toward individual persons who are having problems with racism. And you can get it by going to producejustice.com. Producejustice.com. And what should come up on the screen is a basic textbook, and then there's an additional book that is an addition to the basic textbook, and it's a word guide. It's similar to a dictionary, but I call it a compensatory counter-racist codified word guide. And it has words in it that says how to use words in a counter-racist fashion, what questions to ask when other people use these words, because the words are the glue, you might say, that holds the system of racism together. Because both books are addressed to what I consider to be the number one problem on the planet, and has been for as long as I've been breathing, and that is the problem of racism, and that you can't really solve any major problem in any area of activity, whether it's economics, education, entertainment, labor, law, politics, religion, sex, and war, until you address the race problem and actually solve it. Otherwise, you're going to continue to have all these other problems one way or another. There's no way to escape it. Now, that's in my opinion. I could be 100% incorrect about that. But all of the evidence has shown that all roads lead to the race problem in the form of what we loosely call white supremacy. No matter where the problem is. I mean, if you have polluted water somewhere, it all leads to the race problem. If you have some waste dumping somewhere, that's going on somebody's land, It all backs up in the race problem, because you'll find dark-skinned people where the waste is being dumped, and on and on and on. If you have an education problem, the first thing that people say, well, wait a minute. If you're going to have a school somewhere, and it's a real fancy school that teaches people something that they can really use rather than just a whole lot of stuff that they can't ever use anywhere. I mean, and you're really serious about educating people rather than indoctrinating them and all like that. What are you going to do about the colors? What are you going to do about the people with color in their skin? You're not going to teach them how to do all of these great things, are you? I mean, we have to really consider this before we go forward with this. I mean, how are we going to handle it? How are we going to explain not letting them get an education? And on and on and on. Just pick any area of activity and say you want to go forward with it. And this thing that we call progress. Everybody's in favor of freedom and progress. But whenever you get ready to do it, somebody from the back of the room holds up their hand and says, wait a minute, what are you going to do about the people that got color in their skin? I mean, if this thing is going to work and be of any value, you don't want them to have it, do you? Because they're not supposed to have it. Why? Because people who have color in their skin is not supposed to have anything that's valuable. They're just supposed to have whatever junk is left over from somebody else's project, somebody white, presumably. And that's what the system of racism is all about, and it has absolutely poisoned everything on this planet, everything that people are even planning to do, like President Obama making the speeches last night, excellent speeches. But the white supremacists will take a look at it and say, oh, no way. There's too many dark-skinned people might benefit. We're not going to do that.
Well,
and
let me ask you.
I think that's exactly the way it will play out.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to ask you. First up was, what did you think? What did you hear last night from a speech? And give me some of your reactions to it.
Well, from what I heard, he's consistent in the programs that he started out saying that he wanted to do. But many people before President Obama have said the same thing down through the ages. And some white people have said the same thing. But just like I just said, it runs right aground on the color issue. I don't care if you start talking about Social Security or health care and whatnot. I mean, someone at some point will balk. I mean, and say, wait a minute. You're going to give health care? You're going to cure diseases among all of these dark-skinned people? I mean, we got to go back to the drawing board on this, buddy. I mean, we can't, these are benefits for dark-skinned people. You can't do benefits for dark-skinned people, not on this planet. It just doesn't work. It's not good for business. What business? The business of the system of white supremacy, the most successful material motivator for the people of this planet that has ever appeared in history in getting things done, and for the glory and the fun and the material benefits of people classified as white. We're not trying to help everybody. We want a successful system. This system called justice that everybody keeps talking about, well, that's been dipped into every now and then, but we are not too sure that would all work out. We might not be able to get a lot of fun out of that, or a lot of glory. We have gotten on this thing of having all of our systems geared to mistreating someone, and we have gotten comfortable with that. The system of racism is about mistreating someone. We cannot have a system that's not about mistreating someone. Otherwise, we all get bored. The planet, the people of the planet will get bored. And we don't know what the boredom will lead to. And besides, we like thrills. We like gunfire. We like glorifying marching off somewhere, killing somebody. And if you have this thing called peace and harmony and justice, well, we can't pick on the dark-skinned people anymore, because you can't have white supremacy and justice on the same planet at the same time. So we can't go along with President Obama or anybody who comes behind him, whether they're white or non-white. We can't go along with this. Stick with what works. The system of white supremacy works. Running the world on the basis of mistreating people based on color works beautifully. And it brings vitality to the people of the planet. And the white supremacist perspective is that Hitler was correct. I mean, you got to have vitality among people. People become lazy and lackadaisical in a peaceful situation. Keep some volatility going. One German lieutenant is reported, at least in a novel form, to have said that if you finally brought vitality to the world where all problems were solved and whatnot, and that people were real peaceful with each other, that's not an ideal world. That you would have to actually, at some point, build up someone who is an enemy so you can go off and fight them. And this is what gives real vitality and real meaning to life. Now, there are a lot of people who have that philosophy.
Mm-hmm.
It's to paraphrase whether it's true or false. I mean, General Patton, said that, I love war. I mean, fighting somebody, boy, we love the sting of battle. All true Americans love the sting of battle. I tend to believe that there are some people in Walter Reed Hospital who don't love the sting of battle when both their legs are missing.
Yeah. Especially someone who never had to deal with a bullet hole in his body. All he had to do was just sit there and send people into harm's way and psych them into believing that there was something to this.
Well, there are some people who said, there are some soldiers in World War II who actually said they called General Patton old blood and guts. They say, yeah, right, his guts and our blood.
Okay, Mr. Fuller, let's start off looking at what it is. Is there anything in the last week that you've had a chance to talk with anybody about that you want to discuss, that you'd like to bring forth? And let's do that now. Mr. Fuller.
Well, usually what I hear is the complete devastation that's going on with young black males, completely. I mean, just walking around looking like zombies and whatnot, not knowing what to do or what to think, no guidance, and nobody's telling them anything that makes sense, and just a lot of apathy about everything.
Yeah.
And that goes with the territory. In my opinion, that's been very well orchestrated. For one thing, you raise a series of questions. First question is, you have people being born, when you look at that, and then you say, what are they going to do? When you start talking about jobs and all like that, you have people who you say, well, we've got to improve the educational system so that people can learn how to do things and take care of themselves. But then you have a big question. Do things like what? Take care of yourself by doing what? You come out of the colleges after spending all that money, and this is supposed to be an investment process. Going to college is supposed to be an investment. An investment in what? In your entire future. And you pay big money nowadays because the cost of going to college keeps climbing and climbing and climbing and climbing, almost out of sight. So when you come out of college, they tell you that, well, it's going to take you a couple of lifetimes to pay off that bill. Okay, well, you're going to pay off the bill by doing what? Because what did they teach you in that college that you can take anywhere and make some money off of in order to pay your tuition? Okay? That's if you can get into the college in the first place. And if you can sign up and they can agree to make the payments to get the education that they say you're absolutely going to need, which most people are not going to be able to get in the first place. So here you have high school dropouts by the thousands, who are young and black, roaming the streets, doing what? They all can't be drug dealers. They all can't go into the new economy of selling marijuana, because that's going to be monopolized real quick anyway, if that becomes some type of super industry by the smartest people in it, whom will be white. Okay, in the system of white supremacy, let's be realistic. So where is all this new economy going to be? See, we keep talking about, hey, we got to get people in the business. We got to get things going. We got to get, some vitality going here. The question is, doing what? Now, there's plenty of things to be done, like laying railroad tracks and whatnot, and coming up with modern transportation and all like that. But then that will start benefiting people who have color in their skin, and that dissatisfied people who believe in white supremacy. So that's that age-old dilemma. We're right back where we started from. So these are the things that people are talking about. So what I write about is what not to do in these type of crises, and then what to do. And one thing you definitely don't do, because some of the people I've talked to recently are people who have been incarcerated, as you say. And I said, the one thing you don't want to do is go back to where you were, because that's what the plan is, to recycle you right back into that cell block right where you were. And those who haven't been in the cell block, everything is set up. If you got dark skin, if you're classified as non-white, to go right into that cell block. They don't have any other plan for young black males. None. Nobody can even say what an outline is for the average young black male, particularly in the northwestern hemisphere, and really extendedly throughout the entire planet. I haven't heard anybody step forward and say, now here is the plan for young black males that's already laid out. And all you have to do is just come up and look at it. It's all laid out there, the blueprint for the next 50 years for young black male persons on this planet. This is the plan. Nobody has anything like that. Everybody just speaks in what you call slangs and cliches. Well, get an education, get ahead, do something, that will be productive to society. These are slogans. It's not a plan anywhere that I've heard of.
Yeah.
Slogans are not plans. And so you got people standing there, fellas who have really struggled, living, staying with their grandmothers because that's all they can do. There's no father there, there's no nothing there. Their brothers and sisters and whatnot. He's standing there with his high school diploma in his hand. That's the only thing that he's been given in this world so far, is this high school diploma. So here is this young black male standing there with that in his hand and his cap and gown on, and he's looking out at this great big world, and he's saying, okay, where's step 2? And they'll say, oh, well, get out and make it in the world. Get out and make what? In what world? You've taken me this far. Well, carve your own niche. And everywhere he goes, you say, well, wait a minute. What do people do? What did the people do that came before me? Well, they made it on their own. They pulled themselves up by their bootstraps and whatnot. And all of these slogans and cliches. But a society is supposed to have a plan for the people in it. It's what you call social order. That if you tell a person you better go to school, and if you go to school and make excellent grades and come out with a piece of paper in your hand, say that you have now graduated from school, then I have another plan for you. But they're telling everybody now, oh, well, there is no plan after this, except stay out of trouble as best you can. They say, well, is there a place where I can go to work? Yeah, if you make it. That's what they're telling them. They're telling young black males, you go and build a factory somewhere. To build a factory making what?
Yeah.
All right.
Stay right there. More to come on the compensatory concept with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr. heard exclusively on TalkTainmentRadio.com.
TalkTainmentRadio.com is the premier internet radio platform offering 40-plus talk radio-style programs professionally produced, optimized for online distribution, featuring Columbus, Ohio on-air personalities. TalkTainmentRadio.com offers listeners diverse programming options covering topics such as arts and culture, love, life and relationships, technology, religion, paranormal activities, local and national politics, women's issues, alongside health and wellness. Listeners can access their favorite TalkTainmentRadio.com programs free of cost through the website. Download the TTR app to your cell phone and you can take us wherever you go. We have programs on demand to fit your schedule through our podcast. The address is TalkTainmentRadio.com.
Richard Holt, research chemist, University of Rio Grande in southeastern Ohio. With your skin, you can see your condition. Richard's Remedy is a multi-purpose cream that works on a variety of skin conditions. I sell it in a 1-ounce container through the internet for $12.95 at richardsremedy.com.
All major credit cards accepted. Call 937-607-4259 or go to email info@talktainmentradio.com for a free sample of Richard's Remedy.
Hi, this is Bob Fitrakis, editor of the weekly Columbus Free Press. That's right, we're now weekly. If you don't like monopoly news, support your alternative newspaper, the Columbus Free Press. Read it and advertise. Keep the dream alive. The Free Press, bringing you the other side of the news since 1970. Now more than ever. Call us 824-3853. Pick it up at your favorite newsstand. The Columbus Free Press. Keep the dream alive.
The United Independent Compensatory Code System Concept by Neely Fuller is considered as one of the substantial and basic books for understanding and effectively countering racism. Neely Fuller will turn upside down everything you've heard and everything you think you know about racism and how it works. Call area code 202-484-5461. 202-484-5461.
Did you know that birthday parties help build confidence in kids?
Yeah. Did you know that giving kids less sugar before bedtime helps them sleep better?
Oh, totally. Did you know that friendly kids have more friends?
Everybody knows that.
Hey, guys, did you know that most people think they're using the right car seat for their kid, but they're not?
I didn't know that.
Parents who really know it all know for sure that their child is in the right car seat at the right age and size. Visit safercar.gov/the right seat to make sure your child is protected. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
You got the power.
This is the compensatory concept with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr., heard exclusively on TalkTainmentRadio.com. Radio, the way it should be heard. Joining me, of course, is Mr. Neely Fuller Jr., who has prepared probably what many are saying, and I say it also, and many say it, the most prolific and insightful and definitive work ever on this whole question of racism. Mr. Fuller, we're being joined at this time by caller. Caller, you're on the air with Mr. Neely Fuller. Go ahead.
Yes. Last week there was a white lady on the show.
We're having some kind of like your line is not coming through clear. Are you talking? Is something on or up or something like that that's interfering with it a little bit?
Okay. Last week you had a
do me a favor. Hang up if you will, and call back right away. Because I can't get a clear communication, and I definitely want to hear your comments. So call right back, would you?
All right.
Okay, appreciate it. Mm-hmm. Okay, Mr. Fuller, tell us how to get your work again, please.
Go to producejustice.com. That's producejustice.com. And what you come up on the screen is a way of ordering the basic textbook and the additional book, which is a compensatory codified counter-racist word guide.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd like to say that these books are directed to individual persons. because, in my opinion, it's what individual people do each and every day, wherever they happen to be, that will eventually solve the problem. You asked me the question of what were people talking about and all like that, and they will say, well, some of the people I've been talking to say, well, this white supremacist that you keep talking about, say, how do you deal with it? Said, do you go and look at the Fortune 500 and whatnot, and how do you deal with that? I mean, as an ordinary person acting as an individual, I say, no, you don't deal with it at that level, or you do it indirectly. You're dealing with it at that level. I said, wherever you happen to be, every person is someplace at some time. And black people interact, non-white people interact with white people each and every day. That's where the work has got to be done. I said, don't think about the labels of some, Wall Street and all like that. These are just labels. I said, you're talking about people interaction.
Mm-hmm.
What is off track among the people of this planet is that the way people interact with each other each and every day is nowhere of the quality that it ought to be.
Mm-hmm.
That's what people need to look at. Just walk into the warehouse or the office building where they work and say, do we have a quality relationship in this office? And if we don't, why? I mean, now everybody's around here playing little games and whatnot on this job, in the warehouse or in the supermarket or in the office, in those high tower buildings and whatnot, in the cities and whatnot, and then in little small towns, in the little small restaurants and whatnot, and all these little places. What is the quality of the relationship in this particular place, right this minute, where we are? I mean, come on. Are we honest with each other? Do we tell each other the truth? Do we try to help each other right where we are each and every day without fail, looking for ways to be helpful to each other? Do we actually do that each and every day? All these white people, all these black people, people who are brown people, they call them, so-called Hispanics and all like that. Are we really interacting with each other in the most constructive manner to the max, seeking to be of constructive help to each other? Or are we just sliding around here trying to be conniving and trying to out-slick each other and trying to jockey for positions where we can do harm and get somebody fired or something like that? Is that what we do here? Let's look at what we do right here in this workplace and what we have been doing. Chances are is nowhere near being a quality relationship. I like to put those words in capital letters. The quality relationship. So what is the quality relationship? Where people help each other to the max. Help each other do what? The most constructive things that can ever be done. Not only there, but anywhere on the planet. Look at what you're doing each and every day. Stop the arguments and start having discussions on how you can improve everything for everybody so that you actually rush to work because it's such a pleasant place to be. That's the way it ought to be, everywhere, right this minute. But no, we're taught this ruthless competitiveness, this scheming and backstabbing and figuring out how to get rid of somebody or how to lord it over someone and make somebody feel bad all day. This is what we do. And the white supremacist system it started off being that because it had to be, because you're going to mistreat people based on color. So therefore, you got to think of, jokes to tell about them, try to make them feel bad and all like that. Anytime you set up a system that's based on mistreatment is what you're going to get. And that is spilled over into everything. It poisons everything so that no one has, in capital letters, the quality relationship. It doesn't exist. But that's where you start in answer to the question about this.
Okay.
How do we handle this? Go in and say, hey, what we need here, what we need in this place, is quality relationships, and we don't have any.
Okay, let's
face it.
Okay, I believe our caller's back. Caller, you're on the air. Go ahead.
Yes, Mom.
Yeah, we're still having that problem. Hold on for a minute. Just keep on talking. Maybe there's something I need to do here. Go ahead.
Yes.
Keep talking. Go ahead.
In
No. Caller, go ahead. I'll try to make
hello?
maybe I need to make some adjustments here. Go ahead.
Yes, I have a question for Mr. Fuller.
Okay.
And my question is, I heard him say in one of his one of his discussions that you shouldn't ask for people to respect you.
Okay.
He said that you should have self-respect, but don't go around asking people to respect you, and you shouldn't have respect for nobody else.
Okay.
Should, like, do I apply that same thing when I'm dealing with my parents?
Mr. Fuller, he said that should you apply the same thing is a question of respect. We're having some technical difficulties with the call, but I believe he said essentially is that you should not ask anybody to respect you. You should respect yourself. He said, should he apply that same thing with his parents?
You apply it across the board, all through your existence on the planet, all throughout your entire breathing space on this planet. As long as you exist on this planet, there's three things you should never ask anybody for, ever, under any circumstance: apologies, love, and respect. And I'll give the reasons why. An apology isn't worth anything if you have to ask for it. You grab somebody by the collar and say, apologize to me. And they'll say, okay, how many do you want? You know. I mean, it's no good. You haven't walked away with anything. You think you gained something. You didn't gain anything. An apology should be offered without being asked for. Same way with love. I mean, people say, you know, you're going to make somebody love you. You know, you might find somebody who's been drinking or something like that said, you know, woman, you're going to love me whether you want to or not. I mean, you might as well not have said it because that's not worth anything. If somebody loves you, you will know it. You don't have to ask. You will know it.
Yeah.
The person that really has what you call love, in other words, your interests at heart, will chase you down. I mean, you know, sometimes you might even have to just fight to get away from them.
Right.
Because that person wants to be of help to you. That person cares about you. That person wants to be with you and do things with you. I mean, you know, they do it on their own. If you got to ask for it and chase them down for it and all like that and go to court and try to force somebody to make them stand up there and say it, I think it's an old song that says, I told you that I loved you, now get out. Well, big deal. Now you've been told that you love now. I mean, so what's your gripe? All right, okay. Now that third one, this is the big one. In the old days, I mean, about a couple of decades ago, when people were killing each other about it, I guess they still are, and that's this thing called respect.
Mm-hmm.
Dissing is sometimes called. You don't hear the term very much right now, but it's still very prevalent. Why don't you give me some respect? Stop and think about what you're saying. First of all, genuine respect, according to what I have written and the way that I analyze it, I think I'm correct, comes from yourself. It's impossible for anybody to give you respect. That's something you give to yourself. It's called self-respect. There's only one type of respect on the planet, and that's self-respect. Now, how do you give it to yourself? By not lying to yourself. That's all it is. Don't tell yourself something that you know is not true. Because when you do that, you're through booking. You've given up on everything. When you start telling yourself something that you know is not true. That's all it is. Lack of respect means you're telling yourself yourself something that you know is not true. Now, we sometimes mix up respect with courtesy. That's two different things. If people are being discourteous to you, you don't even ask people to be courteous. If people want to be discourteous, that's on them. You don't pay any attention to people who are discourteous. If they're showing you discourtesy, you don't ask them, hey, be courteous to me. I'm being courteous to you. You be courteous to me. No. If they want to be discourteous, let them. If they want to stand there and shout and not let you speak or something like that, and they show every type of discourtesy, even do some name calling, let them do it. That's their choice. That's not supposed to affect you. Get some command of your own existence on this planet. Don't always depend on someone else's feelings to govern your existence on the planet. And too many people do that. See, disrespect sometimes comes in the form of courtesy, rather. Courtesy, discourtesy, comes in the form of name calling, rather. If someone calls me any name that I don't want to be called, I don't argue with them about that. I just simply tell them the name or title that I would like to be called. If they don't want to do it, that's up to them. But that has no effect on me. Anybody can call me any kind of name that they want to call me any time of day or night, by the hundreds of names if they want to call me by different names that they have made up. Doesn't make any difference what the names or titles are. If that's what they choose to do, that's what they choose to do. It has nothing to do with me or how I'm going to react. So that's in one of the 10 stops. You don't call people any name except the name that the person wants to be called.
Mm-hmm.
But if the person wants to call you a name, even a derogatory name, including the N word, you're supposed to be like steel, like ice. That does not affect you at all. They can stand there and say it all day long in 40 different languages. Fall down in the middle of the floor and kick and scream and shout it. And you should be just like a stone. Because after they get up and walk off, so what? So what?
Let me get his response, Mr. Fuller. Caller, let me get your response.
Yeah, I want to know because my mother tells me that the Bible says you shall honor your mother and thy father.
Uh-huh.
And I just always had a problem with honor and respect. Because when people lie to you, they disrespect you.
Okay.
So since Mr. Fuller said that I shouldn't ask for somebody to respect me, or I shouldn't respect nobody else, that includes my parents, right?
Mr. Fuller?
But see, this is all just drama. See, you gotta, the way you look at it from what is being said. Now, if somebody's saying something to you that's not true, you just simply say, well, it seems like you have said something to me that's not true. So I have to go and find out what the truth is. It's a procedure. That's all you're looking at. And forget about the drama. Even forget about the titles of whether it's so-called mother, father, uncle, cousin, your schoolmate, whatever the title is. It doesn't matter. The fundamentals are the same. If somebody's saying something to you that's not true, you find out that it's not true, you just simply say, what you told me is not true. It's not personal, it's business. What you told me is not true. I cannot use information that is not true. Now, is there any way that you can find out the information that is true that I can use for a constructive purpose? This is what it's all about. It's all about the dots and dashes, not about the so-called what the title of the person is supposed to be, whether it's a mother, father, teacher, or supervisor on a job. I mean, when somebody says something to you that's not true, don't address how you feel about the person or how the person feels about you. It's not about feelings. It's about getting things done the way it ought to be done. And then everything else falls in place. So if anybody says something to you that's not true, you just go back to them and say, it seems that the information that I received from you was false information. Now, is there any way that I can get from you the information that is not false? Yes or no. And it doesn't make any difference whether you're talking to a teacher, a supervisor on a job, or a cousin, or mother, or father, or grandmother, or a child. Same principles are the same. That's what I mean by codification. You go about doing everything the same way that works. Find out what works and do it that same way every time. This is how all systems that are efficient come about. And it gets rid of that excess baggage called emotions. Emotions are unreliable because they change every 2 or 3 minutes. When you let your emotions get control of you, you're out of control. Just stick to the dots and dashes. Somebody says something that's not true, just simply say, the information that you gave me yesterday turned out to be false. So I'm back here today to try to get the correct information if you have it. And if you don't have it, kindly tell me that you don't have it and give me some instructions about where I can go and get it so that I will have it, because I'm just seeking the correct information. I don't care where I get it from. I don't care who says it. I don't want false information from anybody. That's not helping me, and it's not helping me to help anybody else, including myself. That's the way that works. These are laws of the universe, which is what we need to tap into, and stop letting our emotions govern us based on who is dissing us or how somebody feels about this and feels about that. Feelings are unreliable. They serve a purpose, but they have to be connected with something, and that something is logic. Logic is in the universe. 1 and 1 is 2 all over this universe, everywhere. Even on the moon, 1 and 1 is 2 all day long, all night long, every day. Logic won't fail you. Feelings will. I mean, there's many a person who's locked up right now and say, well, I did it on account of the way I felt at the moment. Well, now, you're going to do a whole lot of moments being in a place that you don't want to be, because you just committed a murder based on how you felt. You were mad for about 5 minutes. You killed that person in 5 minutes, and now you're doing 50 years. To think about it, that's not an even trade. That's nowhere near being an even trade.
Mr. Fuller, stay right there. More to come on the compensatory concept with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr., heard exclusively on TalkTainmentRadio.com.
TalkTainmentRadio.com is the premier internet radio platform offering 40-plus talk radio-style programs professionally produced, optimized for online distribution, featuring Columbus, Ohio on-air personalities. TalkTainmentRadio.com offers listeners diverse programming options covering topics such as arts and culture, love, life and relationships, technology, religion, paranormal activities, local and national politics, women's issues, alongside health and wellness. Listeners can access their favorite TalkTainmentRadio.com programs free of cost through the website. Download the TTR app to your cell phone and you can take us wherever you go. We have programs on demand to fit your schedule through our podcast. The address is TalkTainmentRadio.com.
Richard Holt, research chemist, University of Rio Grande in southeastern Ohio. With your skin, you can see your condition. Richard's Remedy is a multi-purpose cream that works on a variety of skin conditions. I sell it in a 1-ounce container through the internet for $12.95. At Richard's
TalkTameRemedy.com.
All major credit cards accepted. Call 937-607-4259 or go to email info@talktainmentradio.com for a free sample of Richard's Remedy.
Hi, this is Bob Fitrakis, editor of the weekly Columbus Free Press. That's right, we're now weekly. If you don't like monopoly news, support your alternative newspaper, the Columbus Free Press. Read it and advertise. Keep the dream alive. The Free Press, bringing you the other side of the news since 1970. Now more than ever. Call us 824-3853. Pick it up at your favorite newsstand. The Columbus Free Press. Keep the dream alive.
The United Independent Compensatory Code System Concept by Neely Fuller is considered as one of the substantial and basic books for understanding and effectively countering racism. Neely Fuller will turn upside down everything you've heard and everything you think you know about racism and how it works. Call area code 202-484-5461. 202-484-5461.
You got the power.
This is the compensatory concept with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr., heard exclusively on TalkTainmentRadio.com. Mr. Fuller, as you know, has authored two books which are considered the most definitive and far-reaching works ever published on this question of racism and white supremacy. Joining me, Mr. Fuller, is a caller who's on the line and has a question or a comment. Caller, you're on the air. Go ahead.
Yes, at family.
I'm sorry. I think that must be coming from us. Caller, go ahead. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Can you hear me now better?
Caller, go ahead. Go ahead, caller.
Okay, family and fun. Yes, Brother Fuller, you're right on. Producing justice is really the only way we will have any peace. This is Mary in Florida, and I just wanted to say the best to you.
Mr. Fuller?
Well, thank you. Thank you.
Did you have a question, caller?
No question, just to let you know that I'm a codified soldier, warrior out here working to produce justice.
Now, let me ask you a question.
Okay.
Tell us what a codified warrior is. What does that mean?
Number one, understanding that in order to live or exist, you need a code because we're living in a society with words and definitions already in place, values already in place. And the values that America holds on to is basically material, gender, items, pets. Those are the values, no compassion, truth, or justice. So in order to be a codified soldier, I need to always be doing and saying what is constructive, and I don't find my place anywhere unless I have an idea of why I will be there. So basically just doing and saying what's about, what's constructive, and making sure that I understand racism, white supremacy, and how it works. Also,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Knowing that no major problem that exists can be solved without first or systematically establishing a system dominated by justice in all areas. And we do know those 9 areas.
So let me ask you, you don't obviously believe that we're living in a post-racial state. I mean, we've heard this since 2008, that now I've even heard some so-called liberals who are saying, well, we finally defeated the race issue, so let's move on and talk about the environment. Let's move on and talk about something else. So what you're saying is that there's no such thing as a post-racial state. Is that what you're saying?
If we don't have justice, we can say whatever we want to. It sounds good, but it's not true and correct.
Interesting. I got another caller. Caller, stay right there. I'm going to bring on the other caller with you. Second caller, you're on air with Mr. Neely Fuller. Go ahead.
Greetings. How you doing, brother? It's Brother Warren from New Orleans.
How you doing, brother? Nice to hear from you. Go ahead.
Great. My question to Mr. Fuller is, Mr. Fuller, what about those of us that put a lot of emphasis on the failure of the affluent blacks, the black bourgeoisie, we often throughout America, those of us who are conscious people, put a lot of blame for the failures of the affluent black element, the black bourgeoisie. How do you respond to that preoccupation on many of our parts?
Mr. Fuller.
Okay, first of all, you define, like E. Franklin Frazier, I think, he wrote a book called
Black Bourgeoisie,
Black Bourgeoisie many years ago, and he talked about the contrast between the black people who have so-called, quote-unquote, made it and those who hadn't. And I'm saying there is no contrast. What do you mean by making it? If a black person comes into a lot of money, I mean, there are some black people who can win a lottery, just by buying a ticket. And all of a sudden, they have as much money as anybody, a whole lot of white people will ever make. I mean, so then what does that black person, what is his or her duties? His or her duties are the same as they were before they didn't have the money. And that is, just do the best they can to help those who need help the most, and mainly just help themselves, in any way that they see fit. But as far as their obligation to solve the race problem, they don't have any more obligation to do that than the black person who is in a shelter. The race problem is caused by the white supremacists. All attention should be shown to them. Just because some black person happens to have a better car than me doesn't say that I'm supposed to be angry about that. That has nothing to do with anything, because those cars all come directly and indirectly from the white supremacists anyway. So if you're going to have, quote, unquote, what they call a beef, it's got to be with the white supremacists. You don't even look at what they call, every now and then I hear people talk about the boule, like that's some type of secret, powerful, whatever it is. I've never heard a description of it or who belongs to it and who's running it. And last but not least, what it does. How many factories do the so-called boule have? How much gold do they have piled up, somewhere in some mysterious place, in some Swiss bank and whatnot? And what kind of decisions are made by them that affects all of the non-white people on the planet to the extent that the non-white people are in the shape that they're in? I say you pay no attention to any of these cliche terms. That's what I say they are, because I never get a real description. The Illuminati and all this. What I see is a system of white supremacy. That one size fits everything. When you say that, you're saying it all. And if you get rid of the system of white supremacy and replace it with a system of justice, it takes care of all of these other little things that people keep talking about, these secret societies, and some people say you have some facets of the Masonics or the Masons who are running everything from the center of the earth. You dig down into the center of the earth, and there they are having meetings there by candlelight that's causing the weather to change and all like this. Well, it's the white supremacists, I say, who dominate all of that, if it does exist. Illuminati, Boule. If you can't have any black people, I understand the Boule is some type of secret society among black people that's running the whole world. First of all, I'm going to say I don't believe that at all. Just forget that. If these are black people, I don't care how much money they have. I don't care how much education they're supposed to have. I don't care how many meetings they have. I'm saying flat out, the black people on this planet don't run anything, period, anywhere you find them. And proof of it is you have a system of white supremacy in place. You can't have two supremes in the same space. That's a law of logic. That's a law of physics. You're going to either have one thing supreme and the other is going to be subordinate. There's no such thing as two supremacists. Like sometimes white people would even say, oh, there are a lot of these people going around here who are black supremacists. It's not a black supremacist breathing nowhere, anywhere in the known universe. Not one. Because you can't have black supremacy and white supremacy in the same space at the same time. That's not logical, and it's not true.
Mr. Fuller, doesn't President Obama represent a contradiction to what you just said?
No. No, there are no contradictions to what I just said, unless I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm either telling the truth or I'm not. I always say, hey, just look around. Travel around the planet, anywhere on the planet. There are some black people who are in palaces. There are some black people who ride around in chauffeur-driven limousines all day. Sometimes black people with a white chauffeur riding around all day. But it's still within the system of white supremacy. That black person has no say-so about what's going to happen to black people if it's in disagreement with what the white supremacists want. There's a lot of black people who have excellent intentions, and they'll make excellent speeches, and President Obama is an excellent speech maker. He made speeches last night, an excellent speech. Nothing incorrect about the speech that I could see, but on account of his status in the world, President Obama has to go either directly or indirectly to someone who believes in mistreating people based on color. That would be a white supremacist, racist men and racist women, and beg for the things that he's talking about. And if they decide that they're going to give it to him, to give it to me, I'll get it. And if they decide that they're not going to give it to him, to give to me, I won't get it. End of story.
Callers, did that answer your any questions that you had? Do you have anything else?
I just want to say I follow Mr. Fuller's codified response to the emphasis on affluent blacks. It's just that a lot of people in the community feel that that's letting them off the hook and making excuses for them. There's a real strong reaction to that codified response among conscious black people, Mr. Fuller. But I do follow your codified response.
Now, hold on for a minute. You said there's a strong reaction. We got about 2 minutes. What do you mean, if you could get there, what do you mean by strong reaction? I don't understand.
Many so-called conscious blacks feel that you should attack the Uncle Tom blacks, and they just cannot accept Mr. Fuller's codified response, which I do advocate. So they become angry with me.
And they think that by attacking these other black folks, it will achieve what?
They feel that they're the buffers. You got to get through them before you can get to the white supremacists. There's a very strong belief for that among conscious blacks in this country.
Oh, I've got you. Mr. Fuller, you've issued statements about buffers and stuff like that. Can you
Yes, I mean, there will always be buffers because, I mean, you even learn from the movie The Godfather. You got to eventually talk to the captain of the ship. On a slave ship, I mean, arguing among the other slaves, I mean, one slave got more cornbread than the other on this day's rations. On a slave ship, and the entire planet is a slave ship in the system of white supremacy. So me arguing with another black person on the slave ship, who is also a slave, about he got more bread than I did yesterday, when the captain came down the ladder and said, okay, it's time for me to feed these slaves my cargo. And so one slave got more cornbread than everybody else, or more hardtack, or whatever the food is. So I argue with that slave. That's useless activity. I have to deal with the captain. In fact, I have to deal with the captain to the extent that I'm no longer on that slave ship, or that there is no longer a slave ship to even have to deal with. That should be my aim. Otherwise, just arguing with other slaves about who got more rations yesterday than they did before the day before, that's not cutting it. And black people try to get by cheap that way. That's not going to ever work. I mean, no matter how many black people are appointed to positions and you spend all your time arguing about what they are not doing, you will be doing that for the next 20,000 million years because you are not getting to the source of the problem. The source of the problem is racist man and racist woman. You have to do away with the entire system
Mr.
and
Fuller,
replace it with a better one.
thank you so much. We appreciate you.